So, welcome everyone to another day of our beautiful summit, the Release to Reawaken Summit. I'm here with Ava Irani, and I'm so excited that she's here with us today. Ava, thank you for joining us.
My absolute pleasure to be here.
Yeah, and Ava is someone who I've known now for a few years. We met when I was traveling back in Perth. God, it was 2017. So we met then, and I just recently, in the past year, did her beautiful yoga and meditation training in Bali. And I'm just so excited that you're here, Ava, because you are truly someone who inspires me, and your journey, the work that you've done for yourself, but everything you've learned around spirituality and yoga and meditation and finding that deeper self within, instead of sort of living on the surface, is has been just really inspiring for me. And I think you're just such a wonderful teacher. So yeah, I'm excited for you to be here with us today.
Thanks, Rachel. All of that appreciation is mutual. I adore you as well. And yeah, you're just a star to me.
Well, yeah, there's so much that I want to talk to you about today, but I think what I've been asking everyone to start, because this is a summit all about stepping into that inner power and releasing those things that don't feel good and don't align with us anymore. The first thing I want to ask you is what personal power means to you. It could be anything.
Absolutely. It's such a good question to get on the same page from the start and to set up the context of what we're actually talking about, because you and I might be talking about personal power, and of course everyone who's listening is going to take their own messages from whatever we say, but it is really nice to set up, I think that's powerful, to set up the context. Yeah, to me, power, just in general, it means connection, it means stability, it means structure, or that's the foundation of it, at least. And for me personally, personal power is a connection to the part of myself that doesn't change. I feel like everything in my life and everything that we experience gets its power from something, from that most potent part of ourselves. And that would be what, we call in our meditation the heart. So something that transcends the manifestation, the heart of it all, the heart of the matter, the heart of ourselves, the heart of hearts, the stillness that's inside. And yeah, I think that that's where power comes from. And I think that power and potentiality of the heart, of stillness, of the creator, lends itself to the whole manifestation. So personally, because of course I'm a person with all my layers and my emotions and my stories and my journey and my dramas, having that connection. And what do I mean by connection? So a recognition, a realization that there is something there, and then a practice and an experience of continuing to deepen that knowing that there is something that in my life and in my experience, in my person, that never changes. It's what I am. So deepening that self-realization, for me, I was just thinking about it this morning. That for me is definitely, that's all I have, and that's my power, I think.
That's beautiful. And that's something, the word, it's come up a few times with this summit. There can be a fear in that, right? In tapping into that power and tapping into that that never changing self, right? Because for a lot of us, we haven't really touched that yet, right? It could be a new thing, and we could think that we're embodying that. And once you sort of start to take that inner journey, you start revealing these different layers, and you're like, oh my God, there's actually a deeper self to me, right? There can be that fear to that. And I think that's something,
Absolutely.
right? That's something that's good to know because this journey is not always light and beautiful and flowery. There can be some hardships to sort of going within. Um, yeah, yeah. So how do you personally sort of embrace that fear when you encounter it? What do you do?
I think the good thing, um, the advantage that I've had, the advantage that you've had as well, is to do something intensive like a silent meditation retreat where you kind of rip the band-aid off and you go deeper and deeper and deeper. And the more you go deeper into the knowledge of your self that is not what you thought you were in any way, and it's completely unknown and it has no name and it has no life, or, it has no life circumstances. It's just pure existence, infinite, borderless, completely destroys your mind because your mind cannot grasp it. So in any attempt for your mind to be present, it just gets shattered. So all of that is just terrifying, terrifying stuff. And, when we were doing our silent retreat last year in Bali, it was an intense one. Like people went, they really went into that journey and they went deep. And you're an example of doing the process correctly, because it was difficult, and it was difficult even before it started to even there, and it was a challenging time. But you embraced the process and you went into it, and fear is not the ultimate. Fear is a part of the process, and definitely knowing that, and I'm sure we spoke about it at length, that connecting to the infinite, it's a fall and it's scary. So wait, can you refresh the question specifically what you asked just then?
Fear, when we are confronted with fear in terms of going into that inner self, like taking the journey, how do you embrace it? What do you do when you're confronted with it? Is there anything that you have done that has really helped to ease it, or like you said, do you just rip off the band-aid and just face it? And I guess that could be a sort of different depending on what you're confronted with, right?
Totally, absolutely. Yeah, so I guess my favorite approach is to go in with that intention. This is what I'm here for. I'm here to go in and I'm here to know myself deeper than I've known it before. And it's going to be an unknown period and there's going to be fear related to it, but I'm in the environment and the container is set up to do so. And the way that I best to do it is that you're not going in there to punish yourself. You're going in there for the truth. So somehow the truth and the knowledge is that sword, and is the fire that burns you, sword that cuts away the attachment. That's the truth and the knowledge, because the truth is that we're not what we think we are on a day-to-day basis, and on our most essential being, we're timeless and it's unknown. We cannot know what we really are the way we normally know things. So that's that difficult part of it. That's the fear, scary part. But it needs to come alongside love and devotion, because that unknown, it's terrifying and it's a bliss. It's a freedom. So there is this other polarity to it where it is beautiful. So to go into it, the way that I approach that fear is, no one is pulling me here. I'm desperate to go into this. I'm in love with this. I'm in love with the truth. This is my heart's desire, is to go into this fire, So to have a love for your practice and have a love for that realization. And the good thing is that the deeper you go into this scary unknown, the more the love and the devotion builds, actually in equal proportion. You did say something though, maybe people need to take different approaches depending on where they're at. Maybe not everyone needs to go deep into the silent retreat. And that's just the trial and error of the spiritual practice. There were a lot of things that I've tried, being completely non-efficient or even had the opposite effect of what I was trying to do. So hopefully you have a good teacher system that you're following. That, look, you can do whatever you want, but in my experience, that path gives this result. And you've said you wanted this result, and to try to take the most efficient path. I'm always about that, the most functional path to get you to the goal that you're looking for, that your heart is calling for. So if you can listen to what your heart is asking for and try to follow what it wants, the fear will be manageable.
Yeah, there's a couple things that you said that I think are so beautifully said. And the first is intention. So the more that you can sort of go into your practice with intention and keep sort of bringing that intention up, it helps you to keep that focus of why you're going there. And even when confronted with those really tough, challenging, fearful things, you know that you have a purpose for going there. And also, as you said, to sort of alter your perspective a bit if you can, to see it as it's your heart's calling, and you love going here, you love going into the unknown and delving into these deeper aspects of yourself. I think that's a really great point to make, because fear and love are both very strong energies, and you can choose to give into either one. But the more that you put your sort of focus and your intention into the love, it'll help you to get through the fear, or help to confront it with a little bit more ease, if that's possible. But that's something I did want to mention too, that I didn't say in the beginning, is you have this beautiful school, the Spanda School. So Ava is calling in from Perth, Australia, which is on the western coast of Australia. And she has this beautiful yoga school where she teaches yoga, meditation, and teachings about spirituality. And so what we keep referring to is she had a yoga teacher training in Bali last June, so almost about a year. And the first week we were there, we did a silent retreat, which is something I've never done. And I'll tell you, in terms of fear, I almost didn't get on the plane. I was overcome with fear that we actually had to have a conversation before I left to encourage me to come. And that silent meditation, I went into it once I finally got there. Still pretty fearful, but it turned out to be one of the most beautiful experiences of my life. I learned so much from it. And it is truly stepping into that fire, and having that intention can change everything. And I learned a lot of that from you, so I'm very grateful for that. I learned a lot from your teachings. So Ava,
Funny, because oh yeah, sorry. When you came, you were scared for a lot of reasons. You were coming to a third world country and so far away from home, and you had a couple of little health scares come up. So the fear is always legitimate, but it was completely proportion to how much you want to be with yourself and heal yourself and be silent and to try this. You didn't not know if a silent retreat would be good for you or not, but somehow it was manageable, and luckily it worked out. It's not always, doesn't always work out.
Yeah.
Not on silent retreat, I mean in life.
And that's the trial and error. And I think that's sort of the beautiful thing about this life and this sort of work, is there's so many different things that we can utilize in order to delve deeper. So one thing might work for you and another thing might not, and that's okay. It's sort of seeing what really works for you. So Ava, another thing that I've been doing with all the speakers is having them just sort of briefly tell us about your own journey to empowerment. So, you know, you don't have to go into too many details, but how you found, you know, yourself where you are now, how you, what called you to go on this path and go on this journey.
Yep. I can definitely give, you know, the history, but you know, what stands out for me right away is, you know, how did I go on a journey of being empowered? And it's daily, you know, daily that empowerment is challenged and affirmed in the daily life. But I guess the spiritual practice for me started, you know, when I say it now, just crazy, but when I was 22. Of course, I thought I was an adult back then. Um,
We all do.
I'd been practicing yoga, like diehard Bikram yoga for many years before that, and but was still not really connected to spirituality or meditation or anything like that, but was doing this really strong asana practice in my early 20s and 17. And I ended up at a yoga school, a yoga and meditation school, when I was 22, and I did my first 10-day silent meditation retreat. But it was, you know, it wasn't a Vipassana retreat, and it was quite, even now, quite unique. And it was a yoga and meditation silent retreat, and it was through the Hridaya School. I'm still affiliated with and appreciate and take so much inspiration from their teachings. Hridaya, starting with an H. And everything that the teacher was saying, I was open to it, and it started to go deeper, and I started to connect to a really deep spirituality inside my own being, heart. And from that retreat, you know, 10 days going pretty strongly into this practice, and it wasn't just to be silent, it was for this goal of self-realization and connecting to something inside, and it completely blew my mind. And since then, it's just been a journey of deepening that realization and deepening my study and pursuit of integrating it into the daily life that is ever changing and ever challenging, and ever healing as well, a healing and growing journey that I'm on as a young woman. It started then, and you know, just that silence and that depth hooked me, and never ever looked back since then, and have just pursued meditation and silent retreat pretty fanatically since then.
Yeah, and you've what I think is amazing too is you've touched on so many different um, you know, forms of yoga to begin with, but also spirituality, right? So you were teaching and studying in Mexico, but then also did the tantra school in Thailand, where you were on staff there as well for a few years, right?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Of them, and they were affiliated in sister schools as well. So yeah, and doing a lot of study. So I've always been academically minded, and so whether I was studying through a school or, you know, doing my own research through texts or through the university, because I was still in uni at that time. Yeah, definitely. And I do more courses than any of my students ever could. And there's just so much information out there. And of course, you need breaks between it and things like that. But when you're ready to learn, you're ready to absorb and to, you know, filter through and connect to different knowledge. So yeah, the study has not completed by any means.
Yeah, and I think it's just always going to be, right? There's always more to learn. And even when you get through as much as we've gotten through up to this point in history, there's still going to be new things being
Absolutely.
discovered and, you know, new realizations. And, you know, so it is, that's a really good point to make, is this journey of empowerment is ever changing, and it's always going to be there, right? So
Absolutely. And I think that can be really destabilizing for people. Like, oh my God, I have to keep learning, and I'll never be at the end, and I'll never be complete. Um, what I think is really important, and what I have so much grace to have received, is that although I keep learning and that will never end, I'll never reach the end goal of knowledge and information and techniques, or, understandings and practices. The um the sense of completion, you can't ever get to that. That's already here, like that deep sense of completion um is not in time, and it's not something to be acquired. You can never, that existential completion and satisfaction that we're looking for is actually inside of us, and it's here, and it's a reality we need to open up to and become aware of. It's only an awareness process. It's not really a mental process. So that whole pursuit of knowledge, and then people get really disenchanted by the knowledge and say, oh, everything is just thoughts. And it is just thoughts. You have to recognize that knowledge is knowledge, and it's helping us to flourish and develop and express ourselves and live in harmony and relate to the manifested world. And knowledge is always going to be necessary and useful to, live in our manifested world. But if we're looking for peace and completion, if we're looking for love, if we're looking for grounding, or there was a word that you said before, empowerment. To me, that is better. We're better off connecting to that sense of empowerment and that power and potency that supersedes everything else that is inside the heart.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's everything you said, right? Everything, we already know everything. It's already in here. And that's amazing. that's a really cool thing. And that's a really amazing thing,
Really cool.
right? To realize is we already know and have everything we need. And that, I think that's sort of the whole point of all of this is when we can tap into that inner knowing, life just opens up. Life is just, it can be more fun, and it can be more exciting, and it's just another way of, changing that perspective of what life can be. I think it's a really great opening and awakening, right? Yeah. So what's something recently that you experienced that I just love that you did, and you spoke briefly about it in Bali, was last year when you shaved your head. So
Well, oh yeah, it was last year.
that was last year. Yeah.
How do I have so much hair?
Grows quick. Yeah. But
Yes.
yeah. See? Yeah, it's almost all the way down to your shoulders now. But I remember when you came to retreat in June, and, through our classes and our teachings, and even, after, just being in contact, I remember for you, and correct me if I'm wrong, it being in itself almost another awakening of you, right? So shaving, that's a big identifier for women, especially as hair. And to not have our hair, for me, I cut my hair pretty short in January, but not as short as you did, and that was a pretty big step for me. So I would love if you could talk a little bit about that and some of the things you learned in letting that go. What was that like for you, as a physical attribute, something that you held as a woman? And it's a very feminine sort of indicator, right? And once that's gone, what was that like for you? What did you learn about yourself?
It was huge. You said something which I'll correct, because you said, maybe it connected me more to that essential me. And of course, so me saying it's huge and stuff, I have women all the time that they were like, oh, that looks good. And they shave their head too, and they have kept shaving it. They're just like, yeah, I love it. For me, it was really challenging and a huge process. And what it really spurred and started was a huge deconditioning. So when that huge signifier and that huge part of my mask was taken away, it was really destabilizing. Um, so I did it in India and went straight into running a silent meditation retreat, and it was heaven. It was so lovely. You know, it was really hot there. All my hair was gone. In India, it's a common thing. You know, you can give your beauty to God and things like that. So just felt like a normal little yogi monk. But as soon as I came back to Australia, I felt really destabilized. My identity had shifted. I didn't look like the way I looked before. I didn't realize how much I relied on my hair for to represent me as who and what I thought I was. And ever since I have felt to be a sexual human being, my sexuality has been invested very much into my hair. So just to have that layer being removed was really challenging. Also, in a Western country, if you've got your head shaved, there's something wrong with you. You know, did you go Britney Spears,
Yeah.
1999?
Yeah.
You know, what has happened? Are you sick? Why aren't you normal anymore? And yeah, I had definitely some attachments to some ideas about normal. And that was really destabilizing. And it started to really bring up and out a lot of the unconscious stress, triggers, trauma, unconditioning. It just started to pull it out. And to be honest, like you said, it was a year ago. It's continued to pull a lot of things in there that um, unfortunately, having that deep trust in truth and the self and the power and the completion that's inside doesn't eradicate the deep reservoir of what needs to be released for awakening to go deeper, and the deep reservoir of what needs to be released in order for us to be happy, whole human beings. So I'm on that journey now, and it's been a good year of a lot of a personal journey of connecting to and releasing subconscious traumas, I guess. I'm a little bit distracted because I just seen my dog walking at the front of me.
In front of your house?
Yeah, which means the gate is open, which hopefully she just goes around. She's good,
Oh,
but
no.
yeah.
Well, tell me if you need to go grab her. We can pause the.
Okay, can you pause?
Yeah. I'll pause it. So where were we? So yeah. So feeling really destabilized, and you're still sort of going through some of that now, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely, so it brought up and out a lot of trauma, and I guess it was just a way of, yeah, connecting to, there is a lot of pain, so much pain inside me, um and I hadn't ever felt it so deeply and in such a prolonged way. And in many ways it's continued to come up over the past year in full-blown episodes of PTSD and anxiety, and you know, really connecting to like flashbacks and just getting a lot of stuff coming up and out. As I know you've experienced some of those things as well, and I've never experienced any of that anymore, and in my life before, and I'm still going through it. Um, and the challenges of life have continued as well. So yeah, I feel like I'm in this darkness at the moment, and to be honest, it feels like it keeps getting worse. Um, Yet I wouldn't have it any other way. Like if there's something inside my unconscious, or there's something inside that could destabilize me at any moment, or, you know, ruffle me, I want to know what it is, and I want to feel it, and I want to have that integrated. Um, so somehow that darkness, yeah, I'm interested in it, and I'm still, yeah, definitely still in that process now.
And I'm really grateful that you shared that with us. Thank you, because that can be hard to admit that you're going through a hard time. So I think a lot of people will appreciate that. And even in all honesty, I feel so connected with you. For one thing, we have, we're almost the same age and have the Pisces shared, and I think Pisces tend to go very deep. Um, but I agree with you. I think I most recently, I cut my hair a few months ago. And so I feel a little bit sort of shadowing you in that regard, where I felt very destabilized the past few months, and it's hard to admit that. But it's exactly like you said. It's one of those things where I wouldn't have it any other way, because that means there's something deep within that needs to be recognized, and it needs to come to light. It needs to be released. And again, that's part of the journey, and that's part of wanting to go deeper and understand yourself on a deeper level, and really help,
Absolutely.
right, help to touch more into that
Yeah.
self.
And it doesn't feel arbitrary. It's not like, oh, it's just some pain and it's just coming through. It's like, no, this is me. It's like exactly as you said, it's a way of connecting to ourselves deeper. It's not like, oh, it's for the collective, or it's for something else, or it's not mine. It's mine. And if it's here and it feels so intimate to me, and I haven't been seeing it, I haven't been loving it, I haven't been with myself so deeply, or this pain and this darkness inside is teaching me a way of living and honoring myself in a deeper way. I want to know it, and I want to be a part of that journey for as long as it is. And um, at the moment, it's long, like as long as it keeps going for.
Yeah.
And you said, and I get a lot of this because I've started sharing as soon as shit went down last year with the coming back to Perth, and then getting a little bit unstabilized, and then kind of going into full blown overwhelm and anxiety, and starting to process some PTSD. Um, right away, I started to share, and I've always been really kind of open about what I can share. So everyone's like, oh, I can't believe you just said that, and I'm like, are you kidding me? If I'm broken, why would I hold that into myself? I need help. And I also want to be an advocate of us helping and healing each other and hearing each other, because I need help. So the quickest way that I'm going to get the help that I know I need, which is permission and space and connection, the quicker I can get that, the better. And the fastest way I'm going to get it is by telling you exactly what's going on with me. So I'm super practical like that. So when everyone's like, oh my God, I can't believe you just said that you're depressed and hurt and stuff like that, I'm just like, but how else will I get help? So I can see myself, I'm like, what journey am I on, that now I'm like an advocate in many ways for a mental health journey, because I'm really going through so much stuff. And I can definitely feel, or I want to be an advocate for listening to each other empathetically as a way of healing and holding space. And coming back to this simple practice of connecting and loving another, each other. um, as one of the most efficient ways of healing our planet, healing ourselves. Like, it doesn't need to be complicated. Just listen and love each other. It's going to develop our capacity to do it to ourselves, and it's going to develop our capacity to heal the world. If the traumas and the pain that we've experienced has come from relating, it's going to be healed in relationship and by connecting with each other, as well as probably one of the quickest means to do so than trying to do it in isolation.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you for saying that. And you're so right. It's sharing our stories. ancient practice. It's been done since the beginning of time. And you're right, it's a simple solution to not only healing ourselves and helping us connect deeper to ourselves, but allowing us to connect to each other. Because, you know, when we can admit to our challenges and the things that we're facing, you know, whatever we might be encountering, when we can be vulnerable and share it, it not only, like you said, allows you to be helped quicker because you can connect to the right people, but it allows others to be vulnerable and to be open and give the space to really share what they're truly feeling on a deep level. And that's what we're talking about. It's not hiding behind those fears and those worries of, oh my God, what's that person going to think of me if I admit this? You know, I think our world has, especially in the Western societies, are told that strength is being strong and not admitting to our faults and not admitting to our failures. And that's really hurt us on such a deep level. And it's been ingrained in our subconscious mind now, because it's been so long, that that's how we live our life. And that's how you come, you know, that's how you overcome things, and that's how you get to the top.
It's hurt us because it's cut us off from ourselves, you know? That's the hurt.
Yeah, yeah, and deeply. It's been a deep hurt. And that's why I think there's such a shift. We're seeing that shift. And now, especially being in quarantine where we're physically separated, we're needing other means of connecting, right? We can't physically go and give someone a hug, so we have to verbally say what we're feeling and verbally express what's going on. So I think that's part of that shift that the world is noticing and recognizing that we can't always physically express that, right? We're now isolated. So there have to be other ways of connecting deeper.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah, so we're being taught that, and it's not always easy. It's not always fun, but that's you know, that's a big thing, a big lesson we're all learning. So a little bit more about more in the physical body, actually. I want to talk to you about. So of course you have your beautiful yoga studio, and one of the practices that has helped me and so many people I know of, in terms of physically releasing some of those things that we hold on to, is yoga. And I want to talk about yin yoga specifically, because we hold so much in our fascia. So that's the structure, right? The web structure within our body that holds everything together. And when we can tap into that and allow ourselves the space and the comfort to release it, you know, we're able to also physically release some of those things. So if you could talk, Ava, a little bit about your yin practice, you know, some of the things you teach about yin and its importance.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're also very well equipped to be speaking about the yin practice as well. But what's been going on for me in my yin practice at the moment is, you know, we're all going to go through our different journeys with the practice. And I think this idea of gently stressing the tissues as a way of releasing stress from it is, you know, a big part of the yin practice. But what I've been playing with at the moment, going through a lot of, you know, mental health situations, you know, feeling overwhelmed, feeling, you know, really anxious and emotionally burdened. What I've actually found is I haven't really approached it from a release point, but so not trying to get rid of anything, not trying to let go, like letting the body relax is definitely what we're speaking about releasing and letting go, like allowing physical muscles and body parts and joints and the tissues to relax, but trying to actually pull things in closer and more into the awareness. So the awareness is there, and instead of just being an awareness and breathing and releasing, being an awareness and breathing and pulling things in to be loved, nurtured, and known, and to be connected back into the heart space. As a way of, it depends on what you're working with. Like, of course, you can release the tissues and let go and kind of energetically let go, exhaling and stuff like that. But because I've been working more, the emotions are what are needing to be addressed, actually bringing those emotions in and loving them and nurturing them and finding those parts of myself that feel uncomfortable. And if it was more energetic, I'd be inclined to kind of want to let it go. But what I've been going through is more of this emotional thing and the thoughts and just bringing them in closer, letting them be integrated in and absorbed and known by awareness, and allowing the process, the ground of that to start to shift slowly by actually loving, using the yin practice as a quiet, embodied time to love myself.
Yeah. Oh, that feels
Pretty
good.
good.
It's true, because it, of course, like you were saying, it physically helps to release and, loosen the body. But it's I think one of the biggest things that we can learn from diving deeper is loving ourselves harder, because that's a lot of times why what we're missing, right? It's those things that want to come up, and like you said, sort of bring to your awareness, are things that are needing some love, things that have been forgotten or pushed aside or pushed down so far you're not even aware of it. So to allow yourself to sort of open so it can come to you, so you can recognize it and love yourself a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And you're an expert meditator, so I would love for you to talk a little bit about meditation, because I think it's one of the practices that have helped me the most. And you had so many different sort of tactics in terms of meditation that you taught us. So like I forget the name of it, like was it neti neti? So the not this, not that, and then of course there's the breathing through the heart. So there's a lot of different meditation. I don't know if you'd call it techniques, but for someone who is new to meditation or is unsure where to start, it's a really beautiful practice that you can do anywhere. So if you could talk a little bit about some of the things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I don't know about expert meditator,
No,
but
meditations were great. Really
yeah,
to get deep in, yeah, and relax.
definitely. It's been probably the biggest passion of my life for the past 10 years. So I've dedicated myself wholly to it. So you'd be seeing a distilled version of all of the techniques that I've tried. And like you said, would you call them meditation techniques? So you're remembering, things that I was drilling and saying so much in the course, is that, in meditation, we don't have techniques, we've got attitudes. However, we definitely speak about concentration techniques as well. And my favorite thing is to talk about meditation, on meditation from a scale of 1 to 10 of how profound and metaphysical it can go. One of my favorite things to do is to talk about meditation from 0 to 1. So really to talk about that foundations of what it really is, what are you really trying to get out of it? How does the body work? How does the energy work? And of course, number 10 is inherent in that 0 to 1 stage as well. So yeah, for total beginners, one of the first things that I would say is to know that concentration and meditation are often confused to be the same thing, but they're actually opposite processes. Concentration and effort, a contraction of your focus onto one point. It's a discipline and it's a finite resource, your capacity to concentrate on one thing. But most people, when they sit down to meditate, they want when they think about meditation, they want to be more relaxed. They want to be non-reactive. They want to connect to peace and love. They want to receive insight. They want to be in intuition. They want to feel connected. None of those are related to concentration. All of those are qualities of meditation. And meditation is the opposite. It's a softening of all the focuses of the mind. And it's a more nuanced process. And there's not actually techniques because there's not an effort implied in it. It's more of an attitude, an approach, an orientation, a heart practice. And a good meditation practice, the sun is shifting. There we go.
There you go.
A good meditation practice has both a concentration, a yang, and a meditation, a yin element to it, working together. So I have a podcast called Functional Spirituality. I'd recommend, if you wanted to know more about meditation, to check out a couple of those free audios in there for practicing and also learning about it. And also I have, I believe next month, a free course on meditation, a 4-day course going into all of these nuances. For people who are experts in meditation or have been practicing for a long time, for teachers, yoga teachers, and so on, I would really recommend, again, that 0 to 1. So what is it doing for the nervous system? What is it doing for the subconscious mind? What is it doing for your approach to self-realization? And then, of course, techniques or ways of practicing it as well. So I would recommend that course. Obviously, I am doing it, so I think it's good and the best approach that I can think of. Does that answer the question, or did you have something specific?
That's great. Yeah, and again, meditation's wonderful because there's so many ways you can sort of approach it. And, it's something you can start with just a minute a day. You can get up to an hour or longer. But what I've found recently too, just always sort of coming back to old techniques and old, just ways of healing, is how much our thoughts can tire us out. So anything that helps to sort of quiet the mind, the mind's never going to fully quiet, but anything you can do to help you go more within and release some of that will not only help your energy right now, but it'll help you dive deeper within yourself and touch into those deeper spaces.
Absolutely. It's so important. It's been an absolute anchor as someone who is going through a transformation, a healing of the unintegrated parts of myself in the body and in the mind. It's been a dark night of the soul. That absolute anchor has been quiet time to connect to myself, and having that practice previously so that I can actually sit on my mat, close my eyes, and connect instantaneously to that is obviously a big advantage. But having that space, because we still run all, even though we're the studio is shut down, we're still running classes all live streamed, and so it's just continuous reinforcement. And I'm continuously shown that anyone can do this. You just need a space to quiet and connect, and also the right instruction so that you're not quietening your mouth, closing your eyes, and just connecting to, trauma and overwhelm inside. That's why meditation practice, just like any spiritual practice, can have a counter effect to what you really wanted. So we can't have that. You need proper guidance, and you need a proper practice and a proper intention, proper space. But otherwise, being able to just have that inner resource that is so amazing, and a practice that you can do anywhere. You just need to close the eyes. Once you have that idea and that technique and that practice sorted, it's exactly like you said, it's so important for us to have that time for ourselves.
Thank you for sharing that. And I think, again, we all have different situations at home right now, whether you're out and you are still working, or you're home and you know, whether you got laid off or you're working from home or whatever your situation is, I think a lot of us are feeling more of that sort of aloneness in a way, right? Just being separated from each other physically, but also, you know, there's a lot of big emotions coming up. And so being able to give yourself the time and space, even if it is for 5 minutes, right now, to utilize whatever practice is most helpful for you. And, you know, there's a lot of studios like Ava's open now who have online classes. So to be able, you know, if you're a beginner and not really sure where to start, those, you know, those resources are available for you to help, whether it's something emotional you're feeling or mental you're needing help with or physical. There's a lot of really beautiful resources out there. So
Definitely.
yeah, yeah. But thank you, Ava. I think, yeah, we've come to the end of our time together, and I'm really grateful for you sharing all this information and sharing your story and being vulnerable and being open with us today. I think, like we said, it's really a time of connecting in other ways and deeper ways, sharing and helping each other where we can. So for those who would like to connect with you, I know you mentioned your podcast, which I've listened to, and it's so great, so helpful. The meditations are wonderful. The information's great. You can tell us about your podcast and where they might be able to connect with you online, to find your classes.
Sure. Yeah, there's a lot of places at the moment. So, Functional Spirituality is the name of the podcast. And I would recommend to search on Facebook Functional Spirituality, because there's a Facebook group related to it where every week I'll share like live teachings and insights. And that's also where I'll be offering the free meditation course coming up. So yeah, those would be probably the best ways, I think, to connect. Otherwise, of course, my yoga studio is called Spanda School, Spanda School, if you wanted to hop on a live stream class or just check out what we're doing. Yeah, I would love to hear more from your beautiful community and see how they've enjoyed the podcast or hear any thoughts and comments about it as well.
Yeah.
It's gotten a bit crazy with the light at the end here. You know what I look like.
Okay, you still look beautiful.
Morning sun.
So I'll put all your information at the bottom. Once I post the video, all the information will be there. So all you guys watching will know exactly where to find Ava. So Ava, thank you so much for being
Thanks
here.
so much for having me.
It's so good to see you. And thank you guys for watching. And we'll see you soon.
Cheers.
Cheers.